And now I present to you Carrie, the musical. Yes, Carrie played the Virginia Theater, now home to certainly not a flop, Jersey Boys. It played 5 performances, opening on May 12, 1988, and closed on May 15, 1988. The show starred Linzi Hateley, and on Broadway, playing her mom was Betty Buckley, who also played the gym teacher in the original movie. And in London, as her mother, the role was played by Barbara Cook, who left the show because she was almost decapitated by a set piece. The show was directed by Terry Hands, choreographed by Debbie Allen, with music and lyrics by Michael Gore and Dean Pitchford. Oh, and my bird apparently loves Carrie the musical. I don't know if you heard that in the background. But I'm presenting to you the original star, Linzi Hateley. And now we are here, straight from London, Linzi Hateley. How are you, Linzi?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. Just in my dressing room, starting to put the makeup on for Chicago.
How is Chicago going out there?
It's great. It's fantastic. I mean, it was. I've actually done it before, so this is kind of me reprising Roxy. But it's funny because I've not long finished doing Mary Poppins, where I was playing Mrs. Banks, and I couldn't. It couldn't be more different from that. I think it was sort of like having done a year of Mrs. Banks. I was desperate to get my tights back on again and have a bit of a laugh with Roxy. So no, it's great fun. It's a great part, and it's still doing very well over here.
Well, no, as you know, we are here today talking about the musicals that haven't done so well on Broadway. We call them the flop musicals, and you were part of, or you were one of the
biggest.
The biggest.
There's even a book with me on the front cover.
That's right. Are you proud of that?
I do look a lot better from those days. I promise you. It wasn't my best time. I was very kind of teenagery and sort of, not looking at my best.
Right. Are you proud of your history in that?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, there's absolutely no regrets at all. I mean, I sort of, I was 17. I'd never done anything before. Got kind of plucked out of theatre school and given an opportunity to work at Stratford-upon-Avon for the Royal Shakespeare Company, and then work on Broadway. And even though it was brief, I got to work with some amazing people. And I think I was fortunate that having not done anything before, no one had anything to compare me to, no other work. So I kind of came out of it okay, even though the show was obviously not a success. I sort of seemed to be all right, anyway. So it was okay. It was all right.
Take me through the process of just, because a lot of people don't know what the audition was like, and if you remember it, just how you got the role and all that good stuff.
I just remember I went twice. The first time I went, bearing in mind I was sort of, 16. I hadn't sort of got my 17th birthday yet, and I went there, but sort of extremely naive. Probably one of my first auditions ever, and basically went. Made myself look a lot older because I thought, they probably won't employ me if I'm this age. Right. And I didn't really know what I was going for, whether I was going for the part of Carrie or whatever. I was just being seen. And I sang on my own from Les Miserables, and like I say, I was plastered in lots of makeup, and Dean Pitchford took me to one side after I sang, and he said, right, can we get you to take all your makeup off? Start again. We want to see the age that you are, and sing on my own again, which I did. And then they called me back the next day and said, right, we've got some stuff that we want you to, some Carrie music. Can you have a little go at that? So I sort of sang around the piano with the guys, and I was offered it sort of the next day, which happened to be my 17th birthday. So
wow.
It was just really bizarre. I mean, it was one of those, sort of almost dream come true opportunities for a very sort of naive teenager who'd not really done much before.
So you go into rehearsals and you look at the script and you look at the score, and do you go, oh crap, or do you go, oh okay, this looks fun?
I go, oh my God, this is amazing, and everything I dreamed of. Completely, like I say, totally blinkered, naive, curious, excited about the prospect of even working in musical theatre. I mean, until that point, I'd have been happy to do, anything to just be getting a job. So to have this opportunity and the kind of names that were being bandied around who were involved in it, it was like, my God, this has to be something fantastic. So at that stage, and having had no experience, I think had I looked at the script now, it would be a different kettle of fish. But certainly at that point, no, there was nothing other than huge excitement and almost disbelief that it was happening.
And the rehearsal period, of course, at that point, your mom was Barbara Cook, and that amazing rehearsal period. Was it just craziness? Did people know what they were doing? Did they know what the show was going to be, or what did they think?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that Debbie Allen had strong ideas, and I think Terry Hands had strong ideas, and I don't know whether the ideas that they had were both the same. But Terry was quite adamant that it was going to be a symbolic musical, and so the realism wasn't there because it was all very stylized, which I think, in hindsight, probably was a strange idea, because really, if you take all the madness aside, you're actually it's actually quite a tragic story about a young girl who's got a crazy mother and she's not accepted, and if you sort of strip it all away.
Sure.
And if you sort of read the Stephen King novel, it's much more about that than it actually is, it being some horrible, scary thing that it became in the film. So, I don't know. I think there was definitely, and probably is always the problem with musicals, and which is why some really work and some just absolutely miss the mark, is that there are too many sort of chiefs, and you can't quite come to an agreement on things. So,
right. Were the reviews good in London when you opened?
No, I don't think they were really. The problem was that it was like a box office record in Stratford-upon-Avon. It sold more at the box office than any other show, musical, play had ever done in Stratford. So on that alone, it was like, well, whatever the critics are saying, and the audiences were actually really enjoying it. They were very, very different to the American audiences because they are anyway. But there was definitely that sense, even from early on, that you were dealing with something that probably could become culty if you sort of did it the right way. But in fact, they took it too seriously. So therefore, it then
success
became
in London, and then they decided to make the move to Broadway.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they'd already, the plan was always that. I mean, we had a half English, half American cast, which was a wonderful idea because it meant the Americans could work in England and then we could come and work over there. So it was the first and possibly the last time that they've ever done that, where they've completely split a company down the middle so that it was, half English, half American. And it was a wonderful opportunity to get the chance to work in America and vice versa. So there were lots of really good and quite interesting things that were involved in Carrie. It was just a shame that the overall result and panning of it on Broadway obviously was not good. Tell
me about the New York part of it. What it was like coming to New. Was it your first time in New York?
First time in New York. I was 17, so I had to be chaperoned. My mum and dad came out and stayed with me for a couple of months. It was bizarre. I mean, it was the sort of thing that I'd love to do again now and actually be able to soak it all in. But I think at the time I was just sort of riding along on this sort of little bubble of, oh well, I'll just go with the flow, and not knowing any difference. It was just the only way that I could do it. I mean, I think I was just fortunate that I never was particularly starry-eyed about the whole thing. I come from a completely un-theatrical, show-busy background, and therefore, right from the beginning, my mum and dad were all very much like, now just take it for what it is, and it might not last. And so I was never sort of under the complete illusion that it was going to be some massive hit. I just was enjoying the adventure of it, really. In the
preview period, there had to have been backstage gossip and backstage talk and all that, theater stuff. Was there ever word that, oh my God, what has this turned into? Or was it still, this is a great thing and we're just going along for the ride?
I think there probably was, but I think I was protected from it. I honestly think that, myself and Betty were kind of like one show and everybody else was another. And it wasn't that, we didn't all get on extremely well. And in fact, it was actually a really good company. But the show, for anyone that saw it, would all agree that it was almost like two shows in one. There was the stuff that me and Betty Buckley did, and then there was the stuff that the sort of high school ensemble were doing. And it was like two different shows altogether. So we were very sort of removed from anything else that was really happening in the company. And so, I'm sure that there must have been. I can't believe it. There were too many experienced people in there not to think, we're onto a loser here. But I was very much protected from that. Apart from the fact that obviously each time you go on and you get a different response to something, and something not always be a good response. Right. The next day you were changing scripts, changing music, which was like, again, something that I'd never ever experienced before, that like you'd learn something in the day and then go on and do it that night, which was terrifying. Right. But an amazing sort of learning curve for me for my first ever job. It was just like, talk about thrown in at the deep end. It was all in one,
And then opening night, of course, all of New York is talking about it. It was in the late 80s, so it was a time where theater was still, the reviews were on the 11 o'clock news at night when everyone got home to see the reviews. Were you aware of everyone just talking and buzzing about it, or was that something that you were kept from as well?
I think I was aware, and I think you sort of get the papers quite quickly over there as well. So I think that, as the party was going on, people's faces were changing, It started quite jolly and slowly sort of turned into, I think there's a problem here. But I don't think that ever kind of prepared anyone for quite the length of time that it was going to be on for. I mean, coming from England, where, audiences are reasonably reserved in comparison to American audiences, even if the response at times wasn't necessarily exactly what we wanted. I mean, it was unbelievable just how just sort of over the top and crazy they were going for it, almost possibly with disbelief, I don't know, but it certainly was the sort of response that you never get in England. So certainly from the English company's point of view, they were thinking, well, you couldn't possibly pull something like this at this early stage just because the reviews are bad, when in fact the audiences are going bonkers for it.
Did you get the closing notice the next day?
I think it was probably about 2 or 3 days after.
Oh my God! Well, it's such an incredible story, and are you proud of it? I mean, were you ever trying to shy away from it? Did it ever steer you away from musical theater as a profession? No, it's kind of weird, really. I suppose in some macabre way, I thought, well, if I can get through that, I can get through anything, really. Well, I know that there are so many people in theater who have been a part of big flop shows that have want nothing to do with the theater again because it was so traumatic. But probably for you, because you were so young, you got shielded from a lot of it.
I think so. I think I was fortunate enough, or maybe just not aware enough of the business at the time to see how cruel it actually can be, and so for me it probably was a blessing that it was my first job, and I was very fortunate that although like I say the show wasn't a success, people recognised that I actually had a talent, and so therefore it wasn't long before Cameron offered me Les Miserables. So I came back to London and then sort of went into that, and so there was a lot of people looking out for me in a way, as if to sort of say, don't let this make you think that this is just how it's always going to be, because it isn't. And so no, I think I was very fortunate, really.
And all these years later, do you still get, besides me, of course, does it still come up in conversation? Do people still talk about it?
It comes up more in conversation than anything else I've ever done.
Mm-hmm. Well,
all these years later. And I still get more letters from people that say, I saw Carrie. And I think, well, I don't know how many could have seen it, because it wasn't on long enough for that many to, but It amazes me that all these years later, of everything that I've done, Carrie's still, it's the one that people want to talk about.
And now you're doing quite a different show. It's quite a different character from Carrie, Roxy.
Indeed. Well, I'm a 35-year-old mother nowadays, you see. I mean, it's a bit different from a chubby 17-year-old, the one that you're probably picturing in your head. So things have changed, time has gone by, but yes, I'm enjoying being Roxy Hart.
And any desire to ever come back over here and do a show?
Oh, I'd love to, yeah. It would be great. It would just be nice to, in a way, come back with a success, I guess. I mean, it was funny because when Betty Buckley, she asked me to come and do an AIDS concert with her at Carnegie Hall, and I jumped at the chance because it was to do some Carrie stuff, and it was really good because it was almost like putting to rest something that felt a bit unfinished because it came off so quickly. That was fantastic. But no, I would love, maybe one day, if ever it was possible to get back over again. Yeah.
Well, that would be great. And Linzi, thank you so much for talking with us today. It's been quite a pleasure. And I'll let you go get into makeup now and get ready to do all that jazz.
Oh, I will. Thank you. Nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you too. Bye-bye, Linzi.
Okay, bye-bye.